Nice. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Where are
I was talking with my friend Elena, and she told me about the communal living that you have been doing. You have been living there actually. Are you part
here?
of the
No,
organization?
here it says that we're streaming live on Facebook.
Ah, yeah, I stream all my conversations. Sorry, I forgot to tell you.
Okay.
It's part of an experiment that I'm doing with. It's interesting actually. Let me explain. So lately, I have been using the way that a friend, like a mentor, has been using with social media, and he's streaming everything, all the conversations that he's doing, or like a way to tap into the collective intelligence. So instead of going and selecting which people you believe that they will be interested in something of your parts of your life, I mean, he's doing it to the extreme, right? He's really broadcasting everything. I'm
Wow.
only doing the conversations that I feel that are interesting, to tell you the truth. I don't do it like all my conversation. So, and the funny part is that by the time you allow that to tap into like a bigger pool of people, and people that you would never imagine, they just come up with ideas and solve like questions that appear in your live stream or like in your conversations and everything. It's
Interesting.
like super interesting. So I'm checking it. Is it okay? I can stop it also if it's
No,
like
that's fine. That's fine. Is it your personal Facebook or?
yeah, it's on my personal Facebook, on
Okay.
my personal page. I use it mostly my personal actually, and we have started only with a group about the project. I kind of get tired with the many pages and many groups, you know.
Yeah. But tell me a little bit. Are you? Or where are you sitting right now? Where are you?
I'm I'm in Greece right now. I was locked down in Pakistan during the whole Corona thing,
Oh wow.
and I just flew back actually 2 weeks ago. So today is my last day of home lockdown, like home quarantine, because they
Are
asked.
you from Greece?
Yeah, I'm from Greece. I'm living in
Okay.
Switzerland, but it was easier to come back to Greece as I'm like a national here. So it was easier to find a repatriation flight to the national country instead of Switzerland. So I just flew back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a peculiar situation right now.
How is it there? It's more chilled, right?
Yeah, it is. We've never had a lockdown here. So I mean, of course, the travels have been restricted, but I mean, in terms of people being forced to stay home, we haven't had that.
Oh,
So
okay. That's cool.
and I mean, it kind of coincided with spring, right? And in Sweden, spring is a big deal because the winter is so long and so dark. So
Yeah,
once
you
it's
really want to
over,
go out, right?
just okay, it's time to start living again. So it's like we've already been self-isolating for half a year before just by winter. So it's very difficult for many Swedes to stay at home.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I mean, it's anyway, it's a little bit difficult. It's funny. I'm lucky because I have like a nice garden around me, so like I'm here.
Oh
It's not,
wow,
it's not that fun. Oh,
beautiful.
that was my phone. But it's not that bad. But still, I'm looking forward to see my friends, etc. From tomorrow on.
I'm sitting. We've been working fully remote at home for a couple of months, but we started to come back to the hub where we're based with my company, and it's a really cool hub here in Stockholm called Norrsken House. So
How?
Norrsken is this. Yeah, Norrsken is the Swedish word for northern lights.
Ah, nice.
So it's basically a big glass house. I can show you a little bit here.
Really?
It's really, yeah, it's a really
Oh wow, that's
very
beautiful.
old building. Um,
Renovated.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's fully renovated. They started this like 3 years ago or something like this.
that's really beautiful actually.
So it's a bit of an open landscape, and then there's some offices and meeting rooms. Um, so it's really cool. It's actually Europe's largest startup hub for positive impact companies.
Oh
So
really? How
it's
does
kind
it
of
work? Eh,
it's
Like,
tech focused, but all the companies here have like a purpose that is of a positive impact kind related to the sustainability goals of UN. As they still have a profitable, most have a profit interest as well, but they have that as a big purpose at the core of the company.
That's really cool. And is it like the incubator itself also like following some of the SDGs?
Yeah, so you have to apply to get in, and then so you either get approved as an impact company or not, and then each quarter we report. So we have our impact KPIs. So each quarter we have to report the impact that we're making, and
That's really cool.
and it's a foundation behind the house. So the foundation also invests money in startups.
That's really cool, actually. How do you calculate the impact? Because I think that's one of the most tricky parts of the social investment.
Yeah, it is super difficult. But I mean, in our case, so we have a relationship app, or the first product that we have is an app that helps singles to connect to other singles based on their personal values. And our bigger purpose is to sort of spread awareness around personal values and get people to be more anchored within themselves, and to do some inner work basically before you find a partner. So for us, like, it's just how many people we get through that funnel of how many people that we get to actually do that inner work and to map their values in our app. That's like one of our KPIs, for example.
That's nice, actually.
So
That's an
yeah,
interesting way.
and then there are some science that also found like that found a correlation between awareness of one's personal values and psychological well-being. So in our case, it's a lot related to psychological well-being.
Really interesting, yeah. And how, in which, are you part of it? Are you working in the place, or are you, how are you involved?
Yeah, so we are. I started a company called Relate, which is what I just mentioned briefly. And so we are one of the impact companies that are sitting here in the house.
And what is the company? Relates, like relates.com, or?
It's relate-app.com. I think the website is still in Swedish since we're we're still in the early phase, so we're not we haven't scaled up internationally yet. So we're just in Sweden, but hopefully we'll go to more countries very
What
soon.
is it about?
So it's a values-based relationship app.
It's this one that you were describing.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't connect the two. I thought it was a different one.
Yeah,
I really like that, but it's only in Swedish. Okay, maybe let me know when it's also in English.
Yeah, for sure. We're also building a relationship app, actually. So we will have two products: one for singles to find someone based on their values, which is more of a personal inner exploration journey to find someone, and then we're building an app now where two partners join and start an inner exploration journey together, to sort of get closer to each other and strengthen their relationship. So it's really, really exciting.
Also important, yeah, because sometimes we kind of lay back and forget after getting into a relationship the work that it needs to be cultivated and grow, right?
Yeah, we don't have the structure or nor the knowledge to know what sort of communication and conversations that need to be held, and so we want to enable those with a bit of a framework and theory. Basically, there are so many different relationship theories of how we're different and view things differently, and ways to understand those differences. So that's what we're trying to help people build: more meaningful and healthy, sustainable relationships.
I love it. Yeah, it's really nice. I think we need more tools also that are kind of like more fun, but getting deeper into the inner journey.
Yeah, fun is the key word there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, it has to be, right? The
Yeah.
other day, it was very interesting. The other day, I was talking with, it was two friends at the same time. They texted me that they have a new girlfriend, and the new girlfriend is meditating, so they're meditating with her. And I was the first person they have seen meditating or something. I don't know, whatever. I don't know why they were texting me that. Probably something like that. And they were like, after all, meditation is cool.
And I'm like, of course it's cool. What do you think, that we were suffering that we were, when we were meditating, or what it is? But like people seeing it from the outside, it kind of feels like boring and kind of suffering in a way. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to make it fun. As everything, anyhow.
Yeah. So, but tell me a little bit about you. Are you doing this project full time now, or what is your life situation looking like?
Yes. So now we are really devoted to that full time. The last 3 months, it has started like, it's a project that kind of came together quite fast due to the whole situation. I just felt the need to really kickstart it right now, and with all the complications, but also the opportunities that this situation is creating into our awareness and into our schedules and into our times and all of that, right? So our focus right now is to have the first small group that will be starting the first gem, so like the first conscious gem, the first conscious community. We're looking at France, so probably we will be it's mostly in the south part of France that we're looking at. And
We have a location there already, or?
So we had the location.
Okay.
And we have some other options that are coming up. There was an interesting shift that happened the last day. So anyway, it's interesting how specific points of our journeys can trigger specific characteristics. So ownership is very easy to trigger greed. So that's what happens. Not from our team, but anyway. We don't need to go deeper. It's something that's probably not going to be the last time. So it was interesting just to observe happening because it completely shifted the whole agreement that was done. So it was like, oh, wow, okay. That was nothing as of what we have talked about. So yeah, it was a really complete shift into the awareness. But the goal remains the same, like to be there for the summer in south of France and start the first community that will be more focused into conscious use of the land. So we're seeing permaculture, most probably, and really start creating like the first home of our bigger community. The overall idea is to have several places around the globe, so you can choose between which house you want to stay for this specific period of time with one model, so it's easy to roam around. Mostly because like most of us have been nomads for a very long time, so it's difficult to even consider being tied down into one location for too long. It does need a little bit of a commitment, like we're thinking about like 1 month minimum stay, for example, and things like that, but also having the possibility to really tap into which country and which environment can allow you to heal specific parts of your journey right now, and you being able to be there with these specific people in this specific country. So this is the idea. And then I was talking with one of my best friends, Elena, that I think that you know, right? And she told me, but Philip is living in a conscious community already. And I'm like, oh wow, that's super interesting. So it's always the same, right? It's like vision and reality, and sometimes like the bridge is the most important part of everything. So that's why I wanted to talk to you, because it's different to imagine something, it's different to have experience living in something.
Sure. Yeah.
So how has been your experience in that part?
I mean, it's been fantastic, and there are so many things around it to talk about, so I'm not really sure where to start. But in summary, I think moving into this place and this community has really changed my life in so many ways. And at home we usually say, so it's a downtown Stockholm, and we're 50 plus people from every continent on the planet, actually over
nice.
20 different nationalities. So it's the most diverse place I've ever witnessed.
Nice.
With like people from all over the world, all kinds of sexual identities and orientations. And it's really cool. It's extremely open-minded. very conscious in general on an individual level, but also in terms of the culture and the values that we have as a community. Did I lose you, or are you still there? It froze here. Hmm.
Sorry, my internet has been completely weird since 2 days ago that started raining here.
No worries.
So please go on. So you started last summer, right? It was the beginning of the community, or
No, so
you joined?
the community was born almost 4 years ago, and
Mhm.
I joined 1.5 year ago.
What is the name?
It's called Tech Farm K9.
Okay.
So the company behind it was called, or is called, Tech Farm, and K9 stands for the street is called Kommendörsgatan number 9. So that's the short abbreviation of the location.
Okay.
I'm not sure where I lost you entirely, but
It was really in the beginning that you were telling me that you have moved to this community that is very diverse, and somewhere there I lost you.
mm, um, yeah, I mean, so it's a downtown building. We have 4 different floors that are connected internally, and 50 plus people from all over the world, as I said, with 20 different nationalities. So
And what does it unite the community? Like, which are the common points, and how is it divided? Do you have your own rooms? Do you live together? How is the whole organization happening?
yeah, I think there are a few different things that sets it apart. I mean, there are so many different types of co-living and collective ways of living nowadays, both private and organized. But I think some things that sets this one apart is that it's completely self-organized. So even though there's a company and investors behind it, it's fully run by the community itself. So it's only the residents that are running it in terms of recruiting new people, in terms of community and events, and in terms of the space and interior design of the space, and in terms of the economy. We have a common we have a shared economy, or yeah, as well, where some of the money that we pay in rent also goes to buying things for the house, and it just also supplies like washing powder and olive oil and stuff like that.
That's really cool. But how is it like the governance? Because usually like in these models, the most difficult is to keep it flowing. And yeah, because we're really looking at different types of governance and how this can become a flat model that doesn't become flat into the energy field. It's just circular, you know what I mean? Because sometimes like if you don't have somebody driving, then the vision and the energy can really set very quiet not in a good way.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. I mean, because obviously we have a turnover. I think the average time that people stay in the house is about a year or slightly more than a year. So there's obviously, even though there are a group that are still there since the start almost 4 years ago, we have a turnover. So it's interesting because there's no sort of I mean, obviously in the beginning there were founders that were more the people running the place and running the culture and having more ownership and responsibility for that. But they're not living there anymore. So it's like it has become an organism by itself, that is just ever evolving and self-organized. So
That's awesome.
there's no single person, but it's just there's always, like, out of 50 people, there's always a bunch of people that are more engaged and that are taking more ownership and responsibility. But my experience is also that those people are shifting. So that the leadership the informal leadership of running the community is shifting based on new people that come in. And so
That's really interesting, because that's exactly what I was feeling, that I mean the project itself has to kind of take life, right? So it can really keep evolving, because otherwise you're limiting it down to just the manager or the owner's vision. So one more quick question that comes into mind is like, do you have how is the contribution? How is the benefits? Do you have some profits from contributing your time? How much time do you contribute in the whole organization? How is running the whole system?
yeah, we have actually been thinking more lately on that, if we should introduce. We have some ideas of systems that would encourage engagement, because we don't really have a system to encourage engagement today. And the only thing that we do is that when people move in, we express the expectation of engagement. So we try to make it clear when you move in that as living in this community and being part of this community also means that you're actively involved in building it. So it's not just a home, or you're just not renting a room, but you're actually becoming part of building a community. So we try to make that clear in the acceptance of new members, but we don't have a system for it. So the result of that, in a way, is that there is, as I said before, there's a bunch of people that end up spending more time and pouring more of their time and energy into building the community, and some that are much less, or maybe even none at all, engaged. So I would say that it's a minority of the house that is making most of the community building. So it would be interesting actually to look at sort of incentivized reward system of some kind to reward engagement and involvement.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really looking at that like today, because we were thinking about creating a kind of reward system that doesn't go with, it goes with the value that you're creating in the others instead of what you're receiving, kind of like start moving, shifting towards gift economy and gratitude economy practically. So but it's interesting in all these models how they can, it's always like from our side, it's like very easy to imagine a model inside the community, but the difficulty is always to connect it to the outside world. So like to fiat money and owners and then all the external investors, etc. But I was wondering, what does it make it like what does it make it a community? Why living there and not in another flat in Stockholm? Or what is the difference?
I mean, the difference, of course, is having people around you, and also we are fortunate enough to have this community relatively well known. So we have a lot of people that want to move in, and there is so we are also are fortunate to be able to be a bit selective, so that we take in people that we think can match the culture and the aspiration of the community, that are willing to, as I said before, be part of building a community, that are open-minded, that are self-aware, which are some of our core values as a community. So just having those people around you at all times, I think, makes a huge difference. And at home, we usually say and reflect that that a year in this community is like 3 years outside in terms of personal development and growth.
Yeah, I can imagine that. That's exactly why we're starting. Also, that was the first realization of the need of a community. Is exactly what
Yeah.
you're saying.
And especially when it's this diverse from all over the world, with all these different backgrounds and perspectives, like just a simple conversation for dinner around a table is just so developing and so enlightening in so many ways. So every single second is just you can feel how you're growing. So that's really cool.
The space is also, it's like living only, so sleeping only, or it has common spaces like some restaurants and cafes and things like that, and
No,
like
so
working space.
yeah, that's another key to the success, I think, is how the space is designed. Is there's a lot of common space, and there's a lot of different ways, or um, the rooms in which we sleep are very different. So it's everything from you get your own room. The most common case is that you share the room with someone else. And then we have some rooms that are more of an experiment, like the one I live in. It has been rebuilt into 4 different pods, so
Okay.
we're 4 people that share one room then. But each room has its own bathroom as well. But so then we have common spaces that are very much designed, or they meet different needs and moods, which I think is the key. Because no matter what sort of mood I'm in when I get home, I know that there's a common space that fits that mood. I don't have to retreat to my own room if I don't feel like socializing. So
Okay.
I think that's another success factor that creates the community feel, that I can always be part. I don't have to separate myself, regardless of the mood I'm in. So we have 5 kitchens in total, but one of them is very big and very cozy, with like a big kitchen island and several stubs. So that is like the social heart. That kitchen island is like the social heart of the community, where a lot of people go to do make their dinners and breakfast, etc. And then we have like a little small library, which is more of a quiet area, with the bookshelves and some sofas and stuff. So there, well, you go if you just want to be quiet and read, but you don't want to read alone. So there's other people reading there, and then we have a huge co-working space. So we actually have like our own office, since a lot of people that live there are entrepreneurs. So that we have, especially now, a lot of people working from home, obviously.
Yeah.
Um, that space is cool. It's also very easily transformed into an event space. So we host a lot of internal events and parties and stuff, that space is perfect for. We have like a small little home cinema, um, where we can. It's like a big round U-shaped sofa that can probably fit 20 or 25 people. And then we have a meditation room that's immensely beautiful. Like it's one of the corner rooms with a lot of lights, and a lot of plants, and it's really, really beautiful and peaceful. And we have a small little gym. So we have the different kind of spaces depending on what mood you're in, and your degree of extroversion or introversion for the day.
I guess this is important because yeah, you don't have the same mood all the time. You don't want to be around people all the time. That's one of the biggest questions that we are receiving. It's like I'm an empath. How can I be like around people all the time? And I know from my experience that it's different, the type of person that you're around. So by the time everybody's really respecting and being quite aware of what they're putting outside in the field, it's a different type of disturbance, much lower than a normal one. But it's true that sometimes you just want to be alone. Doesn't matter who is around you. I was wondering, how was the whole situation right now with self-distancing and the self-isolation? Like, how was that happening into the space? Because it was a tricky time for communities,
Yeah.
physical communities.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I actually had the possibility of self-isolating for a couple of months because I got sick quite early. But I think what we did, we sort of self-isolated as a community, and we just took the hits basically. So I think at one point at the peak, we had almost 10 people that were sick at the same time.
Really? Oh wow.
So
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that all of us have had it by now. I would be surprised if that was not the case.
Wow, interesting.
And when people got sick, they self-isolated inside their own rooms, and then we just had some schedules for when they could use the kitchens, and guidelines for how to clean it properly after you've used it. And so we had like several meetings. We had a task force that with brilliant people. This is also the advantage of having so many different people. Like you have scientists, you have doctors, we have everything. It's amazing. So we have all the competence that we need to build everything from rockets to COVID guidelines and heal broken bones, whatever, we designers, dancers, we get it all in a way. It feels like
yeah, but that's exactly the point. Like all together we have a pure abundance. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Separately we are in a state of lack, but all together we have everything because exists everything in this world.
Yeah. And
that's very interesting to hear.
When I look back at the whole COVID situation, to be honest, I actually feel that it would feel safer and just more secure to be going through this as part of a community where you know that people got your back and you have these people around you in case you would get sick, rather than being completely on your own. So it to me it feels good to have that security.
I mean, in the end, the only real security that we have is people, right? Like after a certain point, doesn't matter how much money you have, if you don't have somebody supporting you, it doesn't really help. So yeah. I think that was the important part of the whole situation, that we realized that much deeper than before, right? That there are some things that we really need people around us. That's very interesting, because that's the second question, as you can imagine, that comes up, right? It's like, oh my God, in the middle of Corona, are you creating a community? I'm like, yeah, because that's right now we actually need it. And right now we understand that something needs to shift. So from our side, it's more like a statement this summer. It's more the, I'm realizing that the whole world got into a numbed situation. Nobody's really able yet to imagine the next steps of what is this new normal that we are all talking about, but I don't see many people creating. And together came the realization that if we don't dream about the new normal, if we don't take steps towards this new normal, we will just fall back into the old normal. And due to the whole situation, it will not even apply the old normal. That's the problem. That's like, it's not going to even be back. So it will be just in the appearance back, but many people have been going through a process during this period, so they will not be in the same stage as they were before.
Yeah.
So it will be an old situation with a new self, and you know how that works. Like it doesn't, practically.
It will transform, absolutely. There's no status quo anymore.
And how do you see like this community being changing over time? So like you're there already a year. Do you see changes? How is it like as an organism functioning alone?
For sure, that is so fascinating. I mean, there is of course some sort of framing and structure, which is mostly our sort of guidelines or values that we aspire to live after as individuals being part of this community. So there's a framing, but in the end, the community is nothing more than the people in it. So it's the people, it's us who live there, and the kind of people that we are that creates and forms and shapes the community. So that also makes it a reality that it does shift over time. And it's but I'm still amazed that it's always in the same framing. Like it's these values are always there. So it doesn't matter how many new people come in, like they're still part of the same sort of values and culture, and that is really amazing. And
That's
I think
interesting. Yeah.
and I think there's a fine balance there. I think to create a strong, healthy community, I think there can't be a turnover that is too high. Like if you would constantly have new people, there would just be a reluctance also to invest in relationships if you know that they're just going to be there for a short time. So, but there's also some beauty in having a turnover, like in having renewed energy and renewed people coming in with new ideas, new backgrounds, new engagement. So, and I think our balance there is pretty spot on. Like every month there is one. I'm not sure now how the turnover is looking like, but there is one or two people coming in every month, basically, out of 50 plus.
Does it happen like naturally, or it's designed to be like that?
No, that happens naturally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The kind of the community itself releases specific people when they're ready to go, and invites others when they're also ready to come, right?
I mean, I think everybody is very reluctant to moving out of the community, but in many cases, since we have such an international mix, like people move to a new country, or they move back home, or they meet a partner and they decide they want to build either a new community of their own or to live on their own.
That's another question. What happens with families? I mean, I guess there are couples already living, right? It's not like single only. But what happens when they move into the stage of a family? Because it's kind of a new stage in life.
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. I know that one of the founders, she had a baby, and I don't know the full story there, but they left the community after 1 or 2 years after starting it. And we don't have any families today. We have 2 persons that have children, but they're like 5, 6, 7 years old.
And the children are living in the community.
Yeah, they only live there part-time, so they have shared custody. So they're not fully there, but they're there like every other weekend or so.
Okay. How much time do you personally spend like in anything that has to do with the community, like being there, talking to people, engaging in the activities?
All the time that I'm home, 100%. For sure. I mean, because it also has, regardless of what mood I'm in, there's just something that happens. I kind of view it as a safety net in my energy levels and mood. So even if I'm super low and I'm super tired and I get home, it's just like I bump up. So it's like a safety net. I can never go lower. Like before, if I went really low, like I never reach those levels anymore, because as soon as I get home, it's just something I'm I'm just there. I'm just bumped up. Um,
Yeah, I
and
mean, the
also
space also is important.
yeah, and also think my particular living situation is a bit extreme also because we're 4 people that live very intimately, and that has also sort of enabled us to develop sort of a sibling relationship among the 4 of us. So so it's also a feeling that I can be completely relaxed and I can be myself completely among these people that are so close to me in my life.
Yeah. This happened like you chose it, or it just happened with the 4 people living closer together?
No, it just happened. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it just happened.
And how is the rooms models? Like you said that most people are sharing with one person, right? So I guess that's just like one price for that, and then how does the model works? And then you have like access in the rest of the location. How is the
Yeah,
economic model
so
work?
everyone has access to all the common spaces, but when it comes to where you sleep, it varies. Where the cheapest model is, we have one room that is a bunk bed room, so it's a bit more. It's not the traditional bunk beds, but they're more like they're really sturdy, but it's like you sleep in levels basically, and it's a little bit bigger space than just a bed, but so you have 6 people in one room, so that's the cheapest. We are 4 people, and then most of the rooms, as I said, are shared by 2 people. And the most expensive is if you have a room completely on your own, which we have a few smaller rooms, particularly where you live by yourself.
Okay. And what is the range of price? I mean, I don't even know the range of price in Stockholm, but I can imagine like with the rest of Europe, more or less. What is like from the bunk bed to the living alone? What is the range in comparison with a normal apartment, let's say?
Yeah, so it's something like 500 euros to 1,200 euros, something like that.
Which, like in comparison with a normal apartment in Stockholm, is kind of like similar prices or
Yeah, it depends a little bit
lower.
what you compare to, because the second hand rental market in Stockholm is a bit crazy. So there you can it's very difficult to find any housing which would be below 1,000 euros per month.
Okay.
So if you compare it to that, of course, yes, then it's a cheaper option. But in general, these rents, including the second hand rental market, are quite high, or considered quite high.
Okay. Any okay, I will have to go very soon. I don't want to take all your time, but any interesting tip, like anything that you would never expect that would happen in a community, or that if you're talking like to me, for example, starting a community, you would think that I have to take care of?
I mean, I think to realize that the people is the community. Like no matter how hard you work on creating guidelines or values and definitions, and it won't matter. I mean, it can be used as a helpful tool when admitting people to the community, but in the end, it's the people there that will create the culture. So it's very important, I would say, which people that come in and that they have the right and similar intention and expectations on why they're there. And then I would also say that the turnover is important. That you feel that the people that are there for some time, and that it's not just visiting people, that it's actually, at least you have a feeling that it's a bit more of a permanent community that you're part of. And so it's a bit of stability in that context, and that it's not exchanged all the time.
Yeah, both of them important. Um, the recruiting of the new members in your community is happening from the community itself, or it's happening from like the office or some specific people?
So there are before there was one person, now we have 2 persons that are also residents that have been appointed responsible to recruit people and admit people. So we have a process where you apply online, and then we have group interviews. I think before we had every week, now we have every other week, I think. So then there's usually something like 5 to 8 people that come to us and visit us, and we talk about the community, and then we ask them questions and try to find out a bit more about their expectations and intentions and values. And after that interview, maybe we have another, or those people have another conversation with them, or we directly feel that it's a good fit.
I love it. I really like the self-organization that has been created. This is very inspiring, to tell you the truth, because sometimes you just feel that yeah, it's more difficult to make it run alone, but that's definitely the goal after all. Thank you so much, Felipe. It was great to get to know you, first of all, and also to get to see how it is to live there. Hopefully.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm just glad to be able to share and hopefully be of any help to you guys. I think it's an exciting project.
One last question before we close. Do you have connection with other communities? Because it's also like a question mark in our, like, okay, we're creating our own, but I feel that it's important actually in this age to create relationships without needing to have them under our umbrella. So long you just have these these cousins, let's say, cousin communities. So do you have a relation with other communities?
For sure, yeah. And that was the thing that I discovered after moving in, that it's sort of a community of its own, the whole co-living community. And I think it's formed also by people moving between co-living communities. So for example, I have some friends that moved from K9, where I'm living, to other new co-living or other co-livings, and then people invite each other for brunches or parties. So you go around to all these different co-living houses and communities, and you meet more people, and so it feels like it's one in Stockholm. It feels like it's one big community of people that are living co-living style.
That's really nice. Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, let's see how that evolves. I will send you more updates once.
Please do. I'm super excited. If I could, I would love to be part of it this summer.
If you want, we are there.
Yeah.
Or if anybody else wants from your community, of course. Like that will be the most important for us, to really have this exchange. And we have most of our people are coming from Sweden. Actually, it's very funny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. How big is the first group?
No, the first group will be small. So we were looking at 40 people, but due to the change, probably we're gonna go down to 20 people, which is kind of fine for starting,
Yeah.
And it's a good amount of people, so it's manageable and also quite bigger, so you can distribute like work, etc. And then looking at growing it, but as the other locations come in, so like very naturally and organically. Let's see how it goes.
Are you driving this alone, or do you have a team driving this?
I started it together with my co-founder, who is called Marco. I'm co-founder. I don't even, we just started together with Marco, and now we are 4 people that we are like in the core team, let's say, and then we have other people who are working in satellite teams somehow. Mm-hmm. So it's some like with different commitments and with different interests, like how it is, right? Everybody.
Will all of you be living inside the community?
So the goal is most of us to be able to be there at least in the first one, at least for a period of time, just to really create this stronger bonding. And then, so the idea was like the first 3 months, everybody who is able to be there. So we're creating this very strong base. And then after the 3 months, we kind of loosen up the model, and it becomes like the minimum stay for 1 month. So then you can come in and out, but you have this like stronger bonding. And with the new members having the same kind of model, so like 1 month of minimum stay, so you really get to know them, and then they're able to move around. So that's what we were thinking, we're looking at.
Cool. I can just mention we have 3 months limited stay, so you have to.
Okay.
You have if you want to move out, you have to give. It's a 3 months notice, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the idea for the summer now. Like for the first, it's like we really want the commitment to be 3 months because I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And then we will see how it goes. I mean, ideally, some people they would just stay there long term. So that's the plan. That's the vision. But you never know until you're there. So
Yeah.
you can
One
plan
step
a
at a
lot of
time.
things. But yeah, exactly. It will be lovely to have you there wherever you want. Let's see how it goes. I'll send you details.
Hopefully in the future I'll manage to come by.
And I will actually, I don't know how you are with visitors. Do you do you have visitors from the outside? Because I could connect you with the guys that are coming to our community that are from Stockholm. So before they fly, maybe they can meet you. They can get to meet the space. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little bit sensitive right now
Mhm.
due to the situation. So we actually do have some restrictions there
Okay,
at the moment.
I can imagine. Okay, no
But
problem. When they are back,
yeah,
better.
for sure.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was
Good
lovely
afternoon.
to meet you.
Lovely to meet you also, and like keep me posted for news also from your side,
For sure.
and
All
also
right.
through the app if you translate it. It
Oh,
would be
I
great to
will
see it.
definitely. Okay.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye.